This is the Strong is a Mindset podcast, episode number 109. If you're not feeling motivated to follow your plan, what do? Let's talk about it. This is the Strong is a Mindset podcast, where you'll learn how to build both a strong body and a strong mind by eating, moving, and thinking. I'm your host, physician, personal trainer, certified health coach, and certified life coach, Carrie Holland. Hey, how are you? What's new? What's good? So, what's good here? We are going to talk about what to do when you're not feeling motivated to follow your plan. Or really, we're going to talk about what to do when you're trying to establish new habits and you're just not feeling it. You just don't feel like it. So here is where this is coming from. So this was largely inspired by a question I encountered during a consultation recently. And it was such a great question, and I've been thinking about it ever since. And the more I thought about it, the more I decided to pull it apart and bring it to the podcast, because I'm sure this person is not the only one who has had these thoughts or concerns. So this was a potential client, and during the consultation, I explained to her my coaching process, my philosophy, how I coach, how we apply life coaching principles to changing our habits, especially related to eating and exercise. And I explained that I don't have a one-size-fits-all diet plan that I turn over to my clients because I don't believe that will work. And instead, we come up with a way of eating and exercising that is specific to her. So when I finished explaining how it all works, she asked a few questions and then wrapped up by asking how I would motivate her when she didn't feel like following her plan. So I had to really stop and think about that for a minute before answering. I get asked a lot of questions, but this was probably one of the most challenging questions I've been asked during an initial meeting with someone. And I'll explain more about my answer to her question in just a little bit. But on a deeper level, the question made me think about motivation and what to do when you don't have any. So that's where we're going today. I'm going to address this question because I think it was a really, really good one. And I'm guessing that someone listening has struggled with finding motivation at one point or another on her journey to changing her habits. So we're going to talk about what to do when you're not feeling motivated to follow your plan. Okay? Now, before I get to that, I just want to take a quick second to mention that we just crossed the 2-year anniversary of this podcast. So that means I've been talking with you every Wednesday for 2 years now. And I just want to take that opportunity to say thank you for listening and for sharing this podcast. I have gotten really great feedback from so many of you with episode suggestions, things you like, things you don't like, and I will continue to use your feedback to keep improving. So it has been a lot of fun writing these episodes, and I really hope that this show has been a useful resource for you on all concepts related to eating, moving, and of course, thinking. So I will keep showing up here weekly, and I appreciate you joining me. And one last plug, if you have not yet left a review, please do. Your written reviews help put the podcast in front of more people who could benefit from this information. And I would love it if you like what you're hearing, if you could leave me a 5-star review. That would be totally awesome. All right. So let's go. Let's get into it. Let's talk about what to do when you are not feeling motivated. So first, let me explain what I mean by this. So what I mean is that you have decided you want to change your life or change your habits. So maybe you want to lose weight. Maybe you just want to eat better so you've got more energy. Maybe you want to start exercising because you know it will feel better to move your body more. So you do something. So that could be finding a meal plan, an exercise plan, buying a journal, a book, an app, a gym membership, or a Peloton. Whatever it is, you find something. And what inevitably happens is you start out with a lot of motivation. And that motivation often comes from the novelty of whatever it is you invest in. You may be thinking, all right, I just found the diet plan. Here we go. Or, okay, I just joined a gym. Game on. Or, I just hired a coach. Things are going to change. And it's that novelty that gets you excited to get started. When you start a new program or you've invested time and money in something new and different from what you've been doing, there's hope, there's excitement, and there's the possibility of a different outcome. And often that novelty in and of itself is enough to create motivation from the start. But things don't stay new for forever. So I was actually just talking about this the other day when my youngest son asked me if it was fun to drive. So we were on our way to Target and it was almost his birthday and he was turning 10 and he reminded me that in 6 years he'd be driving. And he wanted to know if it was still fun for me to drive. And my answer was no. I think of driving as a necessary evil. It gets me from point A to B, but the reality of it is I just don't love driving. I just want to be wherever I need to be, and I don't want to waste time getting there. Sitting in traffic, that doesn't do it for me. But I can still remember the first time I drove myself out of my driveway in my beat up Ford Tempo that I helped pay for the first time I drove all by myself on my 16th birthday after passing my driver's test. That was pretty awesome. I still remember pulling out of my driveway and driving to my friend Emily's house. I picked her up and we went to the movie theater and saw Forrest Gump. And now I am totally aging myself, but you get the idea here. At that time, driving was fun because it was a novelty. And novelty can be motivating until whatever it is no longer new and different. And then you're going to need to do something else besides look for motivation to keep you going and keep following your plan. So here are some things to consider when you're not feeling motivated. Because you know this already, but no one is always motivated. You are not always going to feel like eating veggies and protein. You are not always going to feel like skipping ice cream when everyone else is eating it for the third time this week. You are not always going to feel like getting up in the 4 o'clock hour to exercise before heading into work at 6. No human is always motivated. And that is why I will argue that you need to look for something beyond motivation to keep you following your plan. So with that in mind, and knowing how fickle motivation can be and how it can show up for you sometimes and totally ghost you others, let's talk about some important reminders. So first, remember that you always, always, always have a choice. You are a human with free will, and by nature, you have a choice. So on any given day, you have a choice. You can do what you plan to do, or you can decide not to. No matter what happens to you, you always have a choice. So sometimes you will be tired. Sometimes your friends will order a plate of loaded nachos for the table. Sometimes your kids will ask you to ride your bikes and go get ice cream. Sometimes work will run long and cut into your gym time. And when things come up that challenge your plans, or when surprises happen, or the unexpected happens, that's when it can get hard and you may not feel as motivated to follow your plan. But please remind yourself that it is your decision. It's your choice. No one is forcing you to do anything. No one is forcing you to eat nachos. No one is forcing you to go to the drive-thru and get takeout. This may sound harsh, but I'm going to put it out there for you to consider. If you don't follow your plan, you are choosing it. Everything you do is a choice, even if you choose not to do something. Okay? So beyond recognizing that you have a choice, I'm asking you to own it. Own that you have a choice. So sometimes we put it outside ourselves. Sometimes we say things like, my day is so busy, or I went to bed so late last night, and there's no way I could work out today, or there's no way I have time to make dinner at home. And sometimes we frame our lives so that it sounds as if you had no choice but to turn off your alarm, or you had no choice but to skip working out altogether. But I would simply remind you that you do have a choice. And whatever choice you make, whether that's to eat protein or eat chocolate, those are both your decision. It is always your choice. And you have a choice to follow your plan or to not follow your plan, or to alter your plan to make it work for you, even on the days when you cannot follow it exactly as you intended. There is always a choice here. Okay? And something else I want you to consider. This was a big aha moment for me that I learned from my own coach. And that is, you can feel like trash and still show up. Okay? You don't have to be in tip-top form to show up and do the work. So I think that is a really important concept to understand. So sometimes you put conditions on yourself. Sometimes you put conditions on the things that you are willing to do depending on how you're feeling. So you might tell yourself, well, this has been a super stressful week, so I'm just going to give myself a pass and skip my workouts. Or you might tell yourself, I don't have time to grocery shop and get all of the things I need for my meal plan, so I might as well just forget about it and I can try again next week. Or I already messed up one of my meals today, so because it's not perfect, the entire day is shot, so why bother sticking with my plan the rest of the day? And the key theme here is that you place all kinds of conditions on yourself and therefore put off doing things until you feel a certain way, whether that's feeling excited, happy, perfect, motivated, whatever it is. You've decided on a certain way things have to be in order for you to follow your plan. And what happens is that you put yourself in a box. Sometimes you put so many conditions on your willingness to act that it is nearly impossible for those conditions to be met with any regularity, and then you use that as a reason to not take action. So I use this example all the time, but I had a client. She was a very, very busy physician, and she had 2 daughters that she was racing back and forth to school and all kinds of activities, and she was having a really hard time following her diet and exercise plan that she decided for herself. And she said it so well. I have borrowed her phrase many times since. She said, when everything lines up, it's easy for me to feel good and follow my plan. And I 100% agree. When the stars align and you get a good night's sleep and you get your workout in as planned and the school carpool shows up when it's supposed to and you get to work without sitting in traffic and your appointments all go as scheduled, then yes, it is easier to follow your plan. But what about when you've had a day from hell? What about when your schedule gets blown up because your carpool didn't show up? What about when a client, a patient, a coworker, or your boss is super rude to you, but you still have a workout to do? Or you still have a salad and protein waiting for you at lunch, but you feel terrible. So then what do you do? And those are more extreme examples. But what if you're just feeling blah? You may know what I'm talking about. What if you're just having a blah phase? Maybe things are just fine, but they're not great. Maybe you're not feeling awesome in your relationship with your partner. Maybe work is okay, but it's not really great. And it's been like that for a few weeks and you're just not feeling it. But that blah feeling is creeping into the other parts of your life and you're just not feeling motivated. So what then? What do you do? Do you say, maybe tomorrow when I'm feeling a little better, or maybe next month, or maybe after I talk to my boss, or after I talk to my partner and smooth things out, maybe then I'll get back to the gym or back to following my plan? Or do you tell yourself something else like, it's okay that I'm not feeling my best and I'm going to go get it done anyway? And the point is, it's easy when it's easy, right? It's easier when you feel good and all the traffic lights are green and things are moving smoothly and you're not in a funk and stress is at a minimum. That's when it's just a little easier to follow your plan. It is not as easy when you don't feel great, for whatever reason it is. And if you're not feeling your best, you may not feel motivated to get to the gym. You may not feel motivated to rinse veggies and cut up a salad. Your motivation might ghost you. But remember, you don't have to feel your best to show up. You just have to show up. Waiting for the conditions to be right or for you to be feeling great may mean that you're waiting a long honking time. And honestly, I think it means that much more when you do show up on the days that you're not feeling it. It shows that you're committed. And we'll get to more on that in just a few minutes. Okay, so let's put together what we've got so far. If you're not feeling motivated, or say you're feeling blah, or maybe you're feeling worse than blah and you feel like garbage, but you also recognize that you've always got a choice, what do? You do something, okay? You take action. And you might be thinking, but what if you don't feel like it? Well, that is the whole idea of today, right? Why aren't you taking action? You don't feel like it. So what do? You take action anyway. And I want to add a caveat to this. The action you take can be small. You do not have to move mountains here. If you can't do an entire 30-minute workout, do 10. If you can't eat a salad at the restaurant, find something that works and keeps you on track. You can always do something. I've said it earlier, but it bears repeating. You can take the smallest of action and it still counts, okay? It all counts. You do not have to eat perfectly on any one day. I don't care if you stuffed yourself full of waffles and whipped cream at brunch when you plan to have eggs, and in the process, you've lost all motivation to keep trying. That doesn't matter. You keep trying, okay? So remember the order of operations and where motivation comes from. Once the novelty of whatever diet or exercise plan you're following has worn off, once the motivation that you get from novelty fades, then you need to find motivation from somewhere else. And that motivation is going to come from taking action. So remember the order. It's action, results, motivation. When you take action, no matter how small you think it is, you get a result. And from that result, you get motivation. So it's action, results, motivation in that order. Motivation does not show up one day. It does not arrive by doing nothing. Doing nothing often fuels you to continue doing nothing. And as time goes on, it gets harder and harder to talk yourself into getting started because it will feel like you have such a long way to go to reach your goal. And you know this, but you're not going to get any closer to your goal by doing nothing. I know from an intellectual standpoint this makes sense, but I want you to really hear this. If you want to get motivated, get moving. Do something, no matter how small. I don't care if you had a 45-minute strength training session planned and you end up doing a 5-minute walk. That is something. Or if you eat your potato chips from a bowl and put the bag away instead of sitting with the bag and devouring the whole thing on your couch. You will feel better if you do something, anything, okay? I've said it before, I've written an entire podcast about it, but something truly is better than nothing. I really do believe that. when you're changing your habits with the goal of changing your lifestyle, something really is better than nothing. But you can't just nod and smile in agreement as you hear this. You can't just intellectualize it. I want you to go and prove it to yourself. Go and prove to yourself that you can do something. Even when you feel like garbage, go for a walk, even if you want to sit on the couch. Eat your salad and protein, even though everyone around you is eating burgers and fries and you would normally join them. Write a new and different ending for your story. Do something. Try something different. Get a result and feel the motivation that comes from it. I promise it will feel so much better to do something than to keep thinking about doing something. Endlessly thinking does not give you results. And I want to point something else out here. So here's another thing I would encourage you to do when you're not feeling motivated. Remind yourself of your past successes. And here's why I bring this up explicitly. Often, especially when you're not feeling motivated, you do the exact opposite and look at your past failures, and you use those failures against yourself and use them as a reason to stop before you even start. So how about instead you shift your filter? That means you remind yourself of your past wins and the past times that you made yourself proud. Remind yourself of when you ate on plan and felt awesome at the end of the day for doing what you said you were going to do. Remember what it felt like at the end of the last workout you did, even if it was hard and you were pink-faced and out of breath. Remind yourself of what it has felt like to get up early, even before your alarm goes off, to get your workout done before anyone else in the house is even awake, or whatever success it was for you. Because I'm going to bet a nickel that you have had some successes along the way. And the problem is your brain has a negativity bias and it looks for the negative. So you have to be on to yourself and be very intentional about looking for the wins and reminding yourself of them. So you are shifting your filter by reminding yourself of where your successes were, and you're using those successes to help you fuel more wins ahead. So remember that your beliefs shape your world. So if you're approaching your habits and approaching your lifestyle change with nothing in your brain but evidence of failure, what do you think that's going to do for your motivation? What is that going to do for your success? Probably not much, right? It doesn't really feel good when you're trying to establish new habits and you're thinking of all the times that you failed in the past. So how about you flip that script? How about you look for your previous small wins? I'm encouraging you to create your own highlight reel. So this highlight reel is the one you play in your head whenever you need it. And its sole purpose is to remind you of all the times that you did succeed. Okay? And you come back to that highlight reel as often as you need to remind yourself of the wins you've had. And whenever your brain tries to offer you the opposite of a highlight reel and offers you past failures, you say, "Thank you, brain, for trying to keep me safe by keeping me comfortable, but I'm writing a new story. Thank you for offering me the safety of miserable comfort, but I'm done with that. And I'm choosing something different today. So I'm going to remember all the things that I have done well and all of the previous success I've had. And I'm going to remember that even when things get hard. And then I'm going to stick with the plan that I've laid out for myself." Okay? And if this sounds like a lot of work to you, if this sounds like some mental gymnastics and a lot of brain work, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but it is. Changing your habits, changing your self-talk, really changing your life. It takes work. This is not about waiting for motivation to strike and get you up off the couch to go lift weights, okay? Instead, this is about using your very powerful brain and being very directive and intentional about how you use it. Because you can choose to use your brain as a tool to help yourself and use your thoughts to help you move forward by finding evidence of previous wins. Or you can choose to use your brain against yourself by focusing on your previous failures. It's always your choice. Remember, you always have a choice, okay? And then last but not least, I want to talk about responsibility. So if I'm going to bring up choice, then I think it only makes sense to talk about responsibility too. So I want to take this back full circle and go back to the really great question that I got during a recent consultation. And again, that question was, how will I, as the coach, motivate my client when she didn't feel like following her plan? So in that moment, I took a deep breath and I told her the truth. And I told her, ultimately, I cannot motivate you. And I stand behind that. At the end of the day, I am not the one who is going to motivate you to do what you set out to do. Okay? So let me make something clear. As your coach, of course, I'm going to help you do all of the things I talked about. I'm going to help you identify when the novelty of your plan has worn off. I will also help you determine what your choices are, because you've always got a choice about how you eat, move, and think. I will help you figure out how you can still show up for yourself, even when you're going through stress or even when you're going through a really hard time in your life. I will help you write a plan for action. I will help you create a highlight reel of your past successes so that you've got them in your brain ready to access if and when you need them. But at the same time, after all is said and done, I cannot do the work for you. No one can. No one can force you to do anything. No one can force you to eat a salad and protein at dinner tonight. No one can force you to get out of bed at 5:30 and jump on your Peloton. No one can force you to skip the alcohol at dinner and have water instead. So here is where I am getting at. You can invest in a diet program and buy a packaged food system. You can download an app. You can buy a book. You can hire a coach. You can buy a Peloton or join Orange Theory. So you can do any or all of those things. And those are all external solutions to an internal issue. So no one of those things in and of itself can motivate you to take action. Okay? I think of all of these things as tools that can help you, but ultimately, changing your life is going to come from within. Changing your habits and changing your lifestyle, that is going to come from you. And this is so, so important to understand. You can spend money on the tools, right? You can throw lots of money at getting fit and losing weight if you choose to go about it that way. But simply investing in a book, an app, a system, a gym, a piece of equipment, or a coach is not by nature going to get you results. You can spend all the money you've got and you can have all the tools at your fingertips, but if you don't use them, if you don't put them to work, then you're not going to get anywhere. That's probably one of the most important lessons I've learned from getting coached myself. Sometimes investing in something, whether it's your time, your money, or both, no matter how big or small it is, sometimes investing in something creates a false sense of safety. Like your brain will start telling you, okay, you've got the app. You can log your meals and workouts. Or you've got the book. You're all set. Or you've got a coach. You're fine. You're good. But that's where you can run into problems. Having the program or the app or the book or the coach or the bike, having those things does not automatically equate with success or motivation. No matter what or how much you've invested in your lifestyle, you still have to show up. No one can give the motivation to you. You still have to put in the work, okay? No one can do the work for you. Simply investing in something does not give you motivation, and it certainly does not give you results. You have to be willing to get uncomfortable, use the tools that you've got, take action, and create those results for yourself. Do you see that connection? It is essential. Okay. So we have a motto at home and I really love it. And I think it applies here. I have said it multiple times. And I think in this context, it bears repeating. And that motto is your work, your results. This is why I love fitness so very much. Whatever work you put in, that is the result you're going to get out. It's all you. So you can invest in whatever tools and people and support you need. But at the end of the day, it's up to you. No one can lift the weight or run the miles or swim the laps for you. No one can force feed you veggies and quinoa and protein. No one can force you to skip wine tonight at dinner. And as a result, it's on you. It's your responsibility. And that is a beautiful task to take on, and it's a pretty cool responsibility to have, in my opinion. Fitness is awesome because it's all about you. You put in the work, you create the discipline, you do the hard thing. And as a result, you get whatever result that hard work creates for you. The tools like the apps, the books, the program, and your coach, they will most certainly help, but ultimately, your motivation is going to come from you. So I can cheer you on, I can give you tools and concepts to apply, but at the end of the day, the motivation to keep showing up, even when you don't feel like it, that is going to come from you, hands down. Okay? So before you go and spend more money on something, make sure that you are ready to do the work, okay? I've just given you a number of concepts to consider and a number of tools to call upon when you don't feel like following your plan. And now I'm going to ask you to do the hardest thing of all. I'm asking you to keep going. I'm asking you to try something. Take action, even if it's the smallest action you can think of. Do it. Something truly is better than nothing. But don't take my word for it. Prove it to yourself, okay? And here's one other important thing I want to point out too, because this comes up commonly, and that is when you confuse decision, commitment, and motivation. So to be clear, these three things, they are not the same. In fact, they're very different. Okay, so let me explain. You can decide that you want to change your habits, but that decision does not translate to motivation. Deciding that you want to change your habits is not the same as feeling motivated, and it's not the same as taking action to change your life. And it is definitely not the same thing as being committed. So you can certainly decide to do better. You can think about it and decide, yes, I want to change the way I eat. I want to eat less processed stuff, more whole foods, and I have made that decision. Or you can decide, I am tired of being tired. I am tired of being sedentary. I'm tired of being inactive. But the decision part, that is internal. The decision means you made a choice in your head. And you may make it public. You might share it, and you might declare it to friends and family and tell them, hey, I decided I need to change my diet. But making the decision does not automatically give you motivation. So remember what motivation is. Motivation is your willingness to do something. So you have to be willing to do whatever it is you decided to do. You have to be just willing enough to actually do the thing. That's essential. That's when your internal decision becomes external. That's when you take it outside yourself. You take it beyond your decision and you take action. You do something. And then to take it a step further, it's when you keep doing something that you show you're committed. So while motivation means that you do something, committed means that you keep doing something. You stay in it. More importantly, committed means you keep showing up even if you've had failures, even if things don't go as planned, even if you didn't get the result you wanted the first time around. So commitment calls on your ability to see it through. This is your longevity we're talking about, your grit, your ability to bounce back from whatever failures you encounter and keep going. And the key here is that you don't always have to be motivated in order to be committed, okay? I've said that many times. You are not always going to be motivated to show up for your workout or to eat your veggies or to skip the glass of wine. You won't always be motivated to do those things. But if you are truly committed to changing your life, that won't matter. Your motivation won't matter. Instead, you'll make the decision and you'll practice following through, even when it gets hard. And that comes from within. And while people can cheer you on, or you can read a book, or find an affirmation, or have a stepwise plan written out for you, at the end of the day, taking action and following that plan is going to come back to you. You get to choose whether or not to take action. And whatever results you get, those are all you. And there is total pride in that. Whether you take action and succeed, or you take action and land on your face, at least you took action. And that means something. Because not everyone is willing to show up for themselves. Not everyone is willing to try, let alone fail, and keep coming back for more. But part of my mission is to help you get past that. I did it. I got past it. I used to be so weak and afraid. And frankly, I lived very small. But once you realize that there is so much more available to you when you take action and take care of yourself when you fail and keep taking action, that is when your world opens up. So here is your take home. And this is what I want you to really think about. When you've got a goal and you are truly committed to it, motivation becomes less of a necessity. Your commitment is ultimately what drives you. That is your willingness to keep going and not stop until you reach your goal, long after motivation has faded. Even if you take action and some days you see no results, if you're committed, you keep going. And yes, it may be hard, but that becomes irrelevant. Hard becomes irrelevant because you're in it. You're committed. You are not giving up. You don't need anyone or anything to pump you up because you're going to show up regardless. And even on the days you struggle to get motivated, you remind yourself that it doesn't matter because you have a goal to reach, so you get to work. And you prove yourself to no one other than yourself. All right? And if you need help with this, let's talk. When you coach with me, I will help you decide how to keep going, even when you're not feeling motivated, so that changing your habits is possible. Check out my website, go to www.carriehollandmd.com/contact to schedule a consultation, and let's talk about how coaching will change your approach to your habits. All right? Thank you again for hanging out with me, and I'll catch you again next week. Hey, if you're looking for your next great read, I've got you covered. Head over to carriehollandmd.com/books and download my list of most favorite reads. I've got 2 collections waiting for you. One is all about work-life balance. The other is a collection of books that have changed my life. I've referenced many of these books in the podcast, and now you can access those titles all in one place. Again, that's carriehollandmd.com/books. Check it out and find your next great read. Thank you for listening to the Strong is a Mindset podcast. If you want to learn more about how to build both a strong mind and a strong body by eating, moving, and most importantly, thinking, check out carriehollandmd.com.